Keeping poultry is one of the most tedious things or businesses that you can do. Keeping poultry involves a lot of practices. It involves a lot of farm management practices, which must never be ignored for you to make a fortune out of poultry farming. You'll ask yourself the same question that I used to ask myself before I started my poultry farming business. And one of the questions that I ask myself is that why is it that most of the farmers fail in poultry farming while some of the poultry farmers succeed in poultry farming? After I came to realize that there are operational principles, there are farm management practices that must be adhered to, I came to realize that if these farming operational practices are ignored in poultry farming, you make a lot of losses. That's why I always advise my fellow farmers before they indulge themselves or before they start up poultry farming as a business to always have more knowledge about poultry farming. You will never wake up early in the morning and say or decide that I'm going to start a poultry farm. You have had successful stories from farmers who have severely failed in poultry farming, and you have also had successful stories of farmers who have successfully made it in poultry farming. So in this video, I'm going to give you some of the successful tips in poultry farming that I have experienced myself, that I have done on my farm for me to be successful. I am not too successful, but I hope that I'll be there. What I mean is that I have not yet achieved all my goals that I am looking forward to, but with these beautiful or these successful tips or operational tips in poultry farming, I hope to be there very soon. My name is Skills of Skills Poultry Farm, and on this channel I give tips and I make content about poultry farming. If you're new here, please don't forget to hit that subscription button, because it helps build our community. It helps take our videos viral and make our content more useful to the poultry farmers and those also who want to be poultry farmers. Don't forget, please, to hit that subscription button. Now, tip number one before you start a poultry farm, or if your goal or if your dream of 2025 was to start up a poultry farm, I would advise you to do this one thing. Number one is that you should make a tentative poultry farming budget. Why am I emphasizing a tentative poultry farming budget amongst all the tips that I'm going to give you? Is that a poultry farm budget, just like any other budgets when you're soon starting up a poultry farm, it acts as a roadmap. It acts as a direction. It gives you the trajectory of where you're going. You may have it all. You may have the money, you may have the finances, but if these funds are mismanaged, you will not make it. Just like any other business, so does the poultry farming as a business. You need to make a business plan for your poultry farming before you start a poultry farm. You don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to start up with 500 birds, 1,000 birds, without knowing how much it's going to cost you to raise these birds. So that's the reason why you need a tentative poultry farming budget. The reasons are because you'll need to know how much feeds are your birds going to eat. You need to know the expenses, the purchases of the feeds that you're going to feed to your birds. You need to know how much are you going to spend on the drinkers, on the feeders, on the construction of the structure that you're going to start your poultry farming with. So all these come up in the business plan that you have made. There are a lot of fluctuations that happen along the way, but when you have the road, when you have the trajectory, or when you have the vision of where you're going, it helps you plan in advance. It helps you plan in advance for you to be successful along the way when you're doing your poultry farming. So a business plan is one of the key things that you must do for you to be successful in poultry business. Tip number 2 is that you should have a niche. A niche is something that you focus on. Poultry farming has a lot of departments, I will call them. It has a lot of other sectors that you can involve in. You can be, for example, you can be a breeder. You can be a sales personnel. You can be a farmer and produce meat. You can be a producer for eggs. You can be a producer for feeds. So there are a lot of things that you can do in poultry farming. You can be a hatchery. You can be a lot of things. You can be a brooder of 1 month chicks. So there are a lot of things that you can do in poultry farming. But one of the greatest writers wrote and said that diluted minds produces diluted results. So if you have diluted mindset, or you have diluted mind, you're doing meat at the same time you're doing eggs, at the same time you're selling feeds. Yes, I will not disagree with people who have done it or who are doing it and they're successful. But for a beginner, please, I would advise you or give you this very beautiful tip of focusing first as you learn. Poultry farming is about learning. We as poultry farmers, we learn a lot along the way, because every day is a learning experience for us poultry farmers. Today you learn something, tomorrow you learn something. So we never fail to learn, because every day is a learning session for us. So through all these practices that you're doing, through the niche that you have selected, to be specific, you're learning a lot of things, and it is giving you how to circumnavigate through these mistakes that you'll be doing or you'll be making in your poultry farming. Let me give you an example of me myself. When I started the poultry farming, my vision or my goal was to do layers, to have eggs for the supply, because the demand for eggs was too much in my local area. So I bought eggs. I bought dual-purpose birds. These are the ones that may give you eggs and meat at the same time. So along the way, when I raised the birds to 2 months or 3 months, I came to realize that the cocks were more than the hens. I started with 600 birds, but in 600 birds, there were 1 week. There were 2 weeks birds. So I couldn't tell which one is a hen and which one is a cock. And remember, they are dual purpose. So along the way, I failed. failure is part of the journey. So I did not quit though. I said, okay, since I have gotten more cocks and less hens, let me change the plan. I sold off all the cocks, and the season was really demanding for that product that I had. So during Christmas, I sold off all the birds and got some money, which money I reinvested in my business. So when I reinvested the money in my business, I started raising birds from day one up to 1 month. So you can come to realize the flexibility of poultry farming. Today you are a hatcher, tomorrow you don't know, after 4 months you come to realize that hatching birds, selling birds at 1 day is not working, and then you are in 2 layers, something like that. So find a niche first and focus on it. If you're to do broilers, do broilers for meat production first and learn. If you're to do layers, do layers first and learn something from layers. Not doing layers, broilers, selling feeds at the same time. So your minds become diluted and you will not focus into poultry farming. So tip number 3 is always find your market. I have done this. I have told people that they should not build or they should not start a poultry farming depending on their passion. You will not eat the passion. You're producing the produces or the goods for market, not for your own consumption. If you're doing poultry farming as a business, you have to produce the goods for customers, for consumers, not for you to produce. Because if you're producing chicken for meat production and the consumers want eggs, you'll get disappointed at the end of the day. So do a market research and develop a marketing strategy for your produces or for your goods. One of the ways how you may know that the clients or your customers want these certain products is through doing what we call a market survey. Go ask the people, put adverts on the radio, use social media to market your goods. Use TikTok, use Instagram, use all those apps to market your goods, and know exactly what the people want, and that is exactly what you're supposed to produce for them. So stop producing farm produces or farm goods for your own consumption or for your own passion. That is not business. You produce goods which will be bought in the market, because you getting stuck with the broilers that you have, realist people having the market for producing eggs is the worst thing that you can do for your poultry farm. So make a market survey, do a market strategy, and market your goods, and know which produce that your your consumers want. Another tip is that you should always have a good location of your farm. Farm location sells you a lot outside there. If you construct your farm in urban areas, a person who has a farm or a farmyard alongside his home in the urban areas sells more than a person who has a farm in far rural, unreachable areas. So understand the geography, the relief, the geography or location of where I should place my farm. I'm not saying the biggest people who make profits in poultry farming are the urban farmers, but they have an added advantage. The reason is because they have ready market for their produces. So select a good geography geographical area for your farm, for you to make good sales. Neighbors buy from this farm. You just have to pack and take to the market. It has rained for you, you have taken. It is the rainy season, you have taken. It is dry season, you have the market. So the sales are more preferably higher than a person who sells produces far away end of the countryside. So always have a good geographical location that you can always place your farm to. Another tip I would give you is that after you have now selected the farm, select which type of farming am I going to do. Am I going to raise birds on a free range, or am I going to do an indoor cages or something? It depends on which type of birds that you want to. If you're doing layers, don't think about free range. But if you're doing dual purpose, kienyeji, something like broilers, something like Kenbro, you have wide range of options to take. One of them is free range. Free range, you don't invest a lot. All you need is a space, and you have fenced it. So the more you think about, if you're in a rural area, I would always advise to do free range for you to minimize on the cost of feeding. And also free range gives a wide variety of market because the birds are always organic. So people want these products at a high demand when you're doing a free range. So always decide on which type of farming to do when you're doing your poultry farming. Free range, cages, or indoor, like what I'm doing. You can also decide on to raise birds for 1 month and then sell them off. You can always decide to raise birds 4 months and sell them off. 2 weeks if you're in 2 broilers, 4 weeks, 1 month, 6 weeks. It depends on the capacity that you can feed these birds. Another point is then you can purchase your 1-day birds. But before you purchase your 1-day birds, you should always be cautious of where to purchase these birds. Most of the farmers, most of the breeders and hatcheries, they don't care about the losses that you're going to make. Most of them, all they care about is the money. So always be keen, make a research on the breeder or the hatchery that you're going to buy your 1-day birds. Be selective. Be selective of the hatcher. This hatcher should have a reputation. This hatcher should be known for quality chicks. So always decide on the hatchery that you're buying your birds from. I have visited very many farmers who complain about the chicks they bought. They were not vaccinated, maybe they were not given the first vaccine, which is Marex. And once they come at the farm, all they do is that they die. They have stunted growth. Maybe they don't grow well. So from the beginning, you'll be disappointed if you buy chicks from the suppliers from whom you don't know about their reputation, about the customers that they have worked with. So it is always very important before you purchase your 1-day chicks to know exactly where, who, and when should I buy these chicks. It is very, very, very always important. Another point is that you should always be ready to buy the basic equipments. I always advise my farmers or my friends who want to be farmers that fancy doesn't produce anything. Having that beautiful structure, when you don't have the money to feed the birds, you're doing a lot of nothing. Always go for what you can afford. A person who has 200 birds is far better than a person who has 1,000 birds. If that person can feed the 200 birds very well, take care of them, feed them, give them medication, and take care of them very well, is far better than a person who has 1,000 birds which have stunted growth, which can't feed well, which can't drink well, and which can't grow. So always be proud of what you have. Start from small. Start small and grow bigger than starting bigger and then coming to small. Start with 200 birds. Buy the basics. I made videos on how to make some few of the feeders, drinkers, and something of the kind. So start small. Buy the basics. Just construct a very small structure and you're okay to go. So always start small. It's always my humble request and always my advice. So apparently, those are the few tips that I had for you to be successful in poultry farming. So if this video has been very helpful to you, please don't forget to hit the subscription button again and share this video to a person who is so much need of this information that you may need to do. Thank you so much for watching and may God bless you. Thank you so much.